Hello, and welcome to my channel. It's your girl, Marissa Bklyn. Y'all know the vibes. Today, I'm going to talk about growing up a sex addict and being raised by a sex offender. This is because people are being affected in this world, and people are not being protected in this world. And I just refuse at this point to be a part of the people that's not doing anything except for seeing stuff happen. It's not okay. And more would change if we just speak out and we just help one another and we face the things that's around us and we accept ourselves so we can accept other people and know what characteristics these people hold so you can know how to deal with these people. You see, we can't even deal with each other because we don't even know each other. We just know our ego said that's wrong, so we don't even want to indulge in it. You don't want it to be you, even though it might be you. We're human beings. We have multiple characteristics in this world. Multiple traits to us. You can be very happy, but you could be very sad. You could be very mean, but you could be very polite. Everybody is a different you. If you're trying to be the same person with everybody else, your ego is saying a whole lot to you. Ever since a child, I will overhear my mother tell me, or telling people, because she never had a real one-on-one conversation with me about this manner, that my biological father was addicted to sex. And although she told me a lot of stories that my young mind probably shouldn't have heard about, she didn't tell me a lot of stories about how my father could have been addicted to sex. Yet, she would tell a lot of people this about me. And obviously, I wouldn't want that to be true. So, I just felt like it wasn't true. And I did the absolute best I could to make sure I wasn't moving in that manner. I took care of myself. I didn't lose my virginity until I was 15. That may be young to some, but some people lose their virginities earlier. And with me having an addiction to sex and no knowledge, I did really good. I pat myself on the back and commend myself for that. The first time I was caught humping something, I was beat. I didn't have a conversation. It wasn't a conversation about that. But before that, it was years of me being exposed to sex in school, in sexual conversations with my mom that didn't benefit me the same way an actual knowledgeable conversation would have benefited me. You see, I don't judge my mom. Let me pause right there. Everything is a judgment, guys. Just to make a decision is a judgment. Just to think to make a decision is a judgment. But what you do with that judgment is the next thing that people actually focus on. Are you going to use this judgment to make somebody feel bad? Are you going to allow your ego to do that? Or are you going to use this judgment to learn from this, if it regards to you or if it doesn't? What are you going to do with this judgment? Is your ego winning? Has you tamed your ego in that manner If just because it's not you, are you going to look at it a certain way? Are you going to try to understand? Are you going to try to correct it? Is it just to hell with these people that have certain tendencies that you don't want to have? Just because you feel like it's bad? Just because you feel like something happened to you or something happened to somebody you know? What if something happened to them? Does it make them less important? Does it make them feel less of anything just because they're doing something? Or is it their ego that they have and their mindsets being altered and the paths that they on that's just all messed up? Which one is it? Are you even deciding? Are you deciphering this? Or are you just flowing with your ego? You see, we live in this world. This is a beautiful world. But unfortunately, not a lot of people see that this is a beautiful world. Why don't people see that this is a beautiful world? Because they live in their mind. You see, we all live on this world, but we all have our paths. And we stay on our path no matter what. That's our life. The only time we get off our path is if somebody take us off our path, or if we end our time on our path ourselves. Meaning if somebody kill us or we kill somebody. That's the only way you can get off your path. Your path is your life. And our lives merge with people all the time. If it's somebody that you have intentions for, if it's not. If it's somebody that you see for a second, or if you see them and have them in your life for years. This is what you have. This is your path. Just because we merge paths with people doesn't mean things have to end wherever we merge paths with them. If it was the first time or if it was the umpteenth time. We have power and will to separate ourselves from being on the path. Removing somebody from our path. Removing the mergence. We have power and will. And we know what the right thing to do. Because as human beings, as living beings, we get instincts. It's up to you to follow your instincts. It's up to you to be in control of your mind to follow your instincts. Because you see, just like our government system, our brain has many levels. We have our ego that if you don't tame, you'll get altered. You'll let it run you. You'll be making decisions. You're always going to make the final decision, which is why you're always going to get blamed if something go how something go and it falls on you. But are you making the final decision off of your final decision because you're thinking straight, because you're doing the right things, not just acting accordingly, because accordance is the path to hell. But are you doing the right things? Are you literally doing the right things? Or are you letting your ego play a high role in your life where in certain manners you can't even tame it? You can't even understand. You don't even want to be open enough to understand. If you do something to somebody that you don't want done to you, you already know you're doing the wrong thing. It don't matter what they did. It don't matter how much it made you feel the type of way. Because at the end of the day, it's a feeling. And we get multiple feelings. And just because you get a feeling don't mean you need to act on it. And just because you act on the feeling don't mean the other person needs to know. Just because somebody do something to you don't mean you have to do it back to them. And when you feel like you need to do something back to them, it's your ego. It's not you. But once again, you make the final decision, so it's going to fall on you. But it's very, 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 very important for you to understand that as long as you tame your mind, tame your ego, you have control over your mind. And your mind is a scale. It's a scale. It's good and it's bad. Just like I was telling y'all, it's good and bad in everything. With that being said, you wanna have a balance. Once you hit your balance for the scale, then you could go beyond and open your third eye. And then you could really feel everything and sense even better and use your gifts that you have on this earth. This earth is very, very amazing. All of these people are sad and depressed for a reason. We're suppressed. People are so suppressed because they don't have control over their mind. They letting their ego control their mind. But The ego that took so much control that now your final decisions is you telling you that you sad, but you not sad. Sad is one of the feelings that's in you that you keep on registering because your ego is controlling. And your ego, it attacks other people. But when it's just down to you and your ego, who you think is going to be left? If you can't control your ego, if you can't control yourself, it's going to control you. It's going to make you feel how you feel. You don't even have no reason to be sad right now, but you real sad. You're not living life right. If that triggered you, your ego is in control. Because at the end of the day, like I said, I don't judge people as if, wow, that's what you're doing. I make my judgments off of what I do, and I see what you do. And if I agree, I agree. If I don't, I don't. Period. And that's how everybody else should be. Even down to the worst of the worst type of people in this world. Because they're not the worst of the worst. They're people in this world, just like we are. Yet, we don't understand these people to even help them, to even begin with seeing the instincts or the beginning stages and steps of their interactions, of how they act in this world when they actually start to develop in this world amongst other people. We don't even tend to separate things like that anymore. It's just, once you get a clue of something about somebody, now they need to be in jail, or they need to be here, or they need to be there, or they need to be there. When are we going to get real knowledge on these people? When are we going to get real knowledge on these things that's going on? Because it's amongst way more than all the people that's being labeled for it. It sure is. It most definitely is. You could be sitting next to somebody who has some things going on with them in their brain that they just are fearful to talk about because they don't want to be judged. But then it's in their brain, so subconsciously it's going to come up somehow, some way. How do y'all express these things? How are you expressing this stuff that you don't want to talk about, but you just indulging in? How are you getting a clear mind from it? How are you fulfilling yourself in life? How could you expect yourself to be fully happy if you can't even talk about your shadow stuff? That's all it is. A shadow is still you. I consider myself a self-tamed savage. I consider myself a Buddha at this time of life. My junior year of high school, I bust somebody's head open to the white me. I was that mad. Because love and hate is the same thing. Hate is just a lower vibration of love, and is on the opposite end of the scale. So, I love somebody so much, or I love my ego so much, one of the two, either way, it's both of them, honestly, that I allowed myself to get so upset because we are one. So regardless if you think you don't like somebody, you love that person. You don't like them as much as you feel negative is as much as you feel positive. It's just a matter of what you allow to register because we all one. It don't matter what color you are. It don't matter what gender you are. It don't matter none of that stuff. We're one. So we all have different stuff and it shows, right? But so many people that has different stuff feel so weird or so uncomfortable and so not willing to express it. Why? Because of how people is maneuvering, how this world is maneuvering. It's time to change that. It's really time to change that. I bust somebody's head open to the white meat. And after that situation, I really wasn't violent. Like, yeah, I could get into little confrontational back and forth, but not really into all that extra stuff. And I won't even vibrate to bring that type of energy or people like that to my way. That's before I was doing my work before I could even realize it. Excuse me. Listen, this is real. This is raw. I'm not even gonna stop the video. I'm gonna just keep on going. Ever since I was young, I'm not sure if something happened to me, but I was real sexual. I was just once I got that sensation in the area, I was just okay, this is different. I need to see what this shit do. That's how I felt, even as a kid. I would be playing with my friends, playing with my cousins, and next thing you know, I'm humping these people, or I'm kissing these people. I even remember one time when I was in elementary school, before the 3rd grade, it was a kid showing me his private parts. And kids are curious, but if you don't explain things to them, what if they do have certain traits? How are they supposed to engage in this, or know how to go about this, or protect themselves? Because if they have these traits, they vibrate at a certain frequency. They're gonna attract these type of people towards them. How do you protect them? I had a pretty tough childhood. I watched my mom go through a lot of relationships with a lot of men that wasn't fit for her. Well, let me start by saying, from 2 to maybe 10, my stepdad was in my life, and he held the house down. My mom even allowed him to do certain things that was out of line. That was just, there's no reason you should be beating a child at 3 o'clock in the morning just to get your point across, or whipping a child with an extension cord. These is slave mentality. And like I said, before I was 10, this was happening. Or whipping a child as soon as they get out the shower. These are some really harsh punishments that I was enduring. They even beat me one time. I was getting beat so often because they misinterpreted what a teacher said in elementary school. Once again, before 3rd grade, to the point where I was getting beat so much, they wind up, after they realized they misinterpreted it. That's how I got my GameCube. I remember that. That's exactly how I got the GameCube system. Because I was getting beat so much because my parents just wasn't taking the correct steps to actually indulge in their child. It was just, I'm gonna beat you until you understand. Well, I understood a lot when I was younger, but I was around people who wanted me to understand the way they understood, and didn't have the time or patience to help me or understand me. So basically, before 10, I was doing this humping and stuff low key, you know. My stepdad was really caring. I was a daddy's girl, so he was on it and stuff like that. You know, he did the best he could. I'm not saying none of these things that I'm about to say out of any, like, look at this person as a bad person. I don't look at these people as bad people. I look at them as people who need to face what they have going on with them. But the only reason I'm getting so public about this is because this is my story. This is my life. I could do what I want to do with my life. We could all do what we want to do with our life. We could all be successful and happy with our lives. And I survived. I'm on my own. I hold my own down. I've been surviving ever since a child. Ever since a child, I've been surviving. I've been healing myself. I've been in such good spirits that ever since a child, I would attract angels in my life who would hold it down for me, like, so that I could be okay. Mostly it was boyfriends that I had because my parents didn't really let me go out and do much. They was overprotective, like I said. Well, my stepdad was, and then my mom just followed suit. So fast forward to, like I said, before middle school, I was I was like low-key with the sexual encounters and stuff like that. And then once I got to middle school, I was kind of stressed. I was having a really difficult time trying to stay with my mom. Now, the funny thing about this situation is I would always tell people, like, about the little things that was going on with my mom. And my stepdad, I would tell him the most. He would always remind me that my mom has mental illness and basically try to put tell me as if it was my job to, like, deal with all of these things, like, just because she has mental illness. And it's like, that don't make sense. It didn't make sense at all. It used to break my heart when I was trying to seek help. And my stepdad would tell me that very often. He would remind me that very, very often. The reason I'm coming forward is because I'm not the only person that was affected by this. My mother adopted children, and basically when my baby sister was a baby, we got her like 3 days old. My mother was going through another path in her life where she wanted to acclaim her self-worth and development, and she wanted to get a job, and she wanted to do this, and she was dating a guy at the moment who, I don't know, she dated a lot of guys, but in that period she even dated a lot of guys. I'm not saying this to be rude, I'm saying what my life was like. This is what my life was like. My mother dated a lot of guys. She dated a lot of guys who left their egos untamed, and she didn't do much to tame for them either. Guys that was selfish. Guys who would rather take my mom out to eat, or take my mom out of the state to a different state, while I stay home and watch the kids. My baby sister and my middle sister, and we're all 8 years apart. And it was so real. My baby sister was calling me mommy before she called my mom that. And my mom felt the type of way after she peeped that, and she really enforced my sister to call her mommy. Which, I'm not trying to be no damn mom. I was like, what, 15? So basically, when I was 15, right after I lost my virginity, I was still dating the same boyfriend. And then we broke up. I started dating another boyfriend. It was an old boyfriend of mine. I liked him so much. He left my life and came back into my life. And when he came back, I was sold. So we started dating. And then he moved away. And my mom started dating another guy. And this guy was younger, but this guy was in his 20s. I think he was like 25. And I was 15. And my mom basically had the whole hood in the crib. Like, it wasn't okay, but it was okay. Because this was the life that I was living with my mother. And it started with one night I was getting in the shower, got out the shower, went inside the room, and my mom was entertaining guests. And the guest was a whole bunch of guys, like, from the hood. She didn't really have much female friends. And that guy that she was dating, she wasn't dating him yet. He was just here hanging out. He was here through friends of friends. And I went inside my room and I closed the door, because just because you have a sex addiction don't mean that you're going out your way. You can still live your life. It's other things to you. You understand? I was a 15-year-old girl. I had a boyfriend already. Like, I'm not looking for this. He opens the door and I'm in my towel. We had a quick conversation, but it was just like, okay. And I don't know where my mom, I guess my mom was in the front, but we live on a 1-level apartment. So it's like, I don't even understand why you, listen, this is just a heads up. You know what I mean? Like, watch who you watch. If you protect your children, that's all I'm gonna say. Heads up, protect your children. He stayed the night that night. So he opened the door on me, and he stayed the night that night. He leveled up. I was pretty much stay away from them because I seen how he moved and stuff like that. Until one day, I stayed away from them to the point where I had a bedroom and it was and my bedroom was next to my mom's bedroom. But since my mom wasn't like in tune with the household or getting the household in a good order, like I was having problems with my siblings and stuff like that, and like I would sleep in the living room. So I was in the living room one day, and he came in the living room, and I was just sitting there, and he pulled my pants down, and I was just like, baffled, and he just went down, and I was just laying there like I just couldn't. My mom is in the next room, and this man has been escalating with you present. What are you here for? Like, how don't you sense this? Are you? Then he went in the room, back to my mom. You didn't, I guess, then my mom went out, and I would still try to be a mommy's girl, even though she was who she was. Like, I've really been trying to accept people for who they are ever since young. I love. My mom deserves the world from the childhood that she had, but she'd never get that from me, from the person she's become. I was sleeping in my mom's bed, and he came in, and he actually penetrated me this time. And then my mom came home, just like that, when it was over. It didn't really... I don't know how these situations add up the way they add up, but I know this is how it add up. And I just ate that. I've already been growing up in this household where ever since I started cooking, I was cooking big meals for my whole family. For my mom, my sisters, my cousin, whatever boyfriend she had, and myself. I was taught from young that I need to survive, to keep my family held down. I was taught from young that not everything was all right, especially with my stepdad being around. And wanting to be a great person, but having the demons that he had attached to him, I could tell and sense that things wasn't what they should be. Especially after he left, things spiraled worse and worse and worse. My mom's boyfriend continued to do that stuff for a while. I told my stepdad about it. I told him that how my mom's been acting towards me. And he told me, when a woman sees that her daughter gets attention from a guy, she starts to be rude. Or she starts to put her foot down, try to enforce to let it be known that she's the woman in the house. He didn't save me. He didn't save my sisters. That's what he told me. And we hung up. And stuff continued to happen to me. And I ate that. I ate it for some time. Until I was eating so much stuff that my junior year of high school, I really bust somebody's head open to the white meat. And that was just visiting my stepdad for the summer. He wouldn't let me go back home with my mother, but my sisters did. And then shortly after, a couple of months after I settled in the new state, one of my mom's boyfriend's friends came out and said what happened or what was going on. And my mom claimed she was hurt, but since I've been healing myself for so long and stuff, I didn't want to indulge in that. And I was afraid to go to court, and it just didn't make sense to me. Part of me was just afraid because in ways I felt like I just let this stuff happen to myself, and I couldn't forgive myself or understand why I was just letting this happen to myself. But the other part of me was just feeling like if I come forward, I'm gonna get my mom in trouble. Cause she let this happen to me essentially. And the way it was happening, she set this up. It just didn't make any sense. So the situation blows off, and I come to visit my mom one day, months later. I haven't been to the city in a while, but I come to visit my mom for a holiday. We walk past, I see this guy that all of this stuff happened to me with, and she waves at him, and he waves at her. And he waves at me. And I'm looking like even more baffled. And then me and my mom get into it not shortly after, and she basically tell me that I wasn't raped and I wanted it to happen to me, and I'm just a fast ass and all of this other stuff. Just like my sister, who I don't think these things about. But my mom said that because that's my dad's biological mom. That's my dad's other biological child. And this whole addiction thing is supposed to be going through all of us, right? It's a family thing if you leave it to my mom. But it is a family thing. Because a couple years before what happened to me, it was some type of flare-up situation when I wasn't living with my mom, when I was in middle school living with my stepdad. That happened with another young lady that my mom was raising at the moment. Now the story is multiple stories, but it's really he say, she say. And one person is saying somebody is being grown because it was a minor. Just like me. Somebody's being grown and this, that, and the third. But the other person is saying nothing at all happened. Just like me. And the thing is, this is the second person. I was the second person that something happened to. And now it's starting to get kind of sketchy. I'm not understanding this. But I'm still living life because nobody else is saying nothing. My family knows, but they not doing nothing. They not saying nothing. I don't see many kids or many of my cousins around my mom no more. But is that the most you could do? What about the other kids? What about the kids that is being exposed? What about the future kids that's come to be exposed? Okay. So that's the second person. That's two people. That's two young girls who's had some type of conflict or situation with two older men that was introduced and put in this cycle and circle because of my mom. That's the middle person. That's why we know these people. On my mom's end, we called it upon ourselves. Okay. Like I said, ever since I was young, I've been doing my healing, yo. So, I eat this shit. I move on with my life. 2018, I was about to drop out of school. I dropped out of college. It just wasn't for me no more, and I believe in free will. I believe things serve purpose. Everything in life serves a purpose. It's literally everything serving a purpose. Sometimes things die out, because that's life. It's not sometimes, all the time. But death equals rebirth. That's all it is. Yes, it's harsh. Sometimes it's sad. But something new is coming. It's up to you to embrace the new. But something new is coming. Nothing is the same. So if you feel like I'm the same person, you growing in all the worst ways. You might be the same in your positivity, but if you're not even growing in that, you're growing in all the worst ways. You're becoming worse and worse by the day. If that triggered you, do some soul searching. I dropped out of school. I'm dating a new person. We having a nice life. One night, I'm just crying. My intuition has me crying. I'm crying for my sisters who's staying with my mom. I'm just crying and crying and crying. I don't even know why I'm crying.